Hi everyone, Dan from BetterCloud here. Today, I'd like to walk you through onboarding. Missing onboarding steps can be a terrible way for someone to come into your organization for the first time. So it's best to automate this process via a workflow in BetterCloud. So on the left-hand side of the screen, let's go ahead and expand Workflows. Then, we'll click New to launch the Workflow Builder. Here, the first thing we'll want to do is name our workflow. We can go ahead and name it Onboarding. Now there are many paths into an organization, and we're going to fill out our when and if statements here. So this example is going to be an onboarding for our sales department, and it'll be labeled as such. Now keep in mind, you can set your when statement based on your source of truth. Our source of truth in this example is Google. So we're going to go ahead and set our when statement for when a new user is created in Google. So we'll go ahead and click the plus and add it. It'll want to know our integration. We're going to set this as Google because that's our main Google integration. And it will continue to be our integration moving forward. Now we need to set an if. On the left-hand side under conditions, we'll go ahead and expand Google to see the different conditions that are available to us. You can set your if condition based on if the user is active or suspended, depending on their cost center, what their department is, who their manager is, what their primary domain is, and what their title is. Most often, we see our clients do this based on department, so we're going to go ahead and select that for this example. Our Google integration again will be Google, and the operator will be is, department will be sales. So again, when a new user is created, if they're in the sales department, we're going to perform then actions. Then actions will happen sequentially. So if you have a document that walks through your actions for onboarding, go ahead and break that out right now. The first action that we'll take is to add a user to a Google group, and we'll start with Google because that's our source of truth. We can go ahead and select Groups under Google's heading, then click Add to Group. That adds our first step and our sequential then statements. Again, our Google integration is just our standard Google. Then we're going to pick the dynamic selector and select the user because we want to take action on the user that kicked off the workflow. Notice as we type sales here, you can see sales, sales department, sales enablement, and sales management. This is because Google is a full integration and can get the metadata from our group names. So we'll go ahead and click sales. Perhaps we also have an everyone group for everyone in the entire organization. If we want to add this user to another group, we can go ahead and click Add to Group again, and that creates the then action, step 2. As we did before, we'll select our user who kicked off the workflow, and in group, we can go ahead and type everyone. Notice that everyone displays because, again, Google being a full integration, we can scope the names of the groups, and we can get a type ahead. The next thing we'll want to do is add the user to a calendar. Now, they can get access to the sales calendar because they're in the sales department. So we'll select our Google integration. As we did on the last two steps, go ahead and select the user who started this workflow. And our calendar will be the sales calendar. Now we can determine what level of access and visibility this person should have. Full, edit, view, or only to see availability. We'll want to give them the ability to view events, and we'll select that here. Next, we can set them up with the team drive for the sales team. By clicking Drive, you can see the options that we have here. We'll want to go ahead and add the user to a team drive, and select the plus there. On the right-hand side, we'll pick our main Google integration. We'll select the user that kicked off the workflow, and we'll enter sales into team drive. We can go ahead and select our sales team drive, and select the level of access this user should have: full, edit, comment, or view. Here we can go ahead and give them full access to the team drive. Then we can decide if we'd like to skip sending a notification. At the end of this workflow, we'll go ahead and send a welcome email, so we're going to go ahead and skip this for now, because the information about the team drive can be in the welcome email. Next, we'll want to add this user to our sales organizational unit. And ensuring that all users are set within an organizational unit if Google is your source of truth is absolutely a best practice. Here, we've selected Move User to Org Unit, our Google integration. We're going to go ahead and pick our user. Then after this, we can type in sales. Now remember, we get type aheads because Google's a full integration, and we could see the different sales OUs that we have here. We can scope into children. Notice some of them have parent organizational units. In this example, we'll add the user to the root sales OU, which is directly below the root OU for the entire organization. Now that we've set everything up in Google, we'll want to go ahead and add this user to additional integrations. Because you can create users using BetterCloud, we'll want to create a user in Dropbox for this employee. So by selecting Dropbox, we can go ahead and click Add Team Member. And this will begin creating a user in our Dropbox integration. We can define their first name because we know their first name from Google. Mousing down, you can go ahead and select first name. Again, the same thing will be done here by clicking the dynamic selector, then selecting last name under Google user. Google knows all of this information. This is why this is powerful. So again, Google knows the user's email, and we can go ahead and select that. All the information that Google knows is being passed to Dropbox. We can then determine their role. In this case, we'll just want them to be a member, and we can select that. Then after we select member, we can decide if we'd like to send them a welcome email. We would in this instance. We then want to add this user to a group. Again, just adding users isn't enough to do onboarding efficiently. We need to ensure that they're added to groups and calendars and things like that. Notice here, instead of selecting the Dropbox user, we're selecting the user in Action 6 that was created. So we're picking Action 6 and the member. Dropbox is a full integration, so we can scope into the different groups. And here we'll select sales by getting the type ahead. Lastly, if our organization is going through a website redesign and we want to make sure this user has access to that file, we can go ahead and share a file with this user. We'll get a type ahead for the file name. So let's go ahead and type in website, and here you can see website redesign displays. We can click this and begin getting this user access to the website redesign file. As we did before, we're going to pick the user that was created in Action 6 by selecting it here, ensuring that we're selecting the right person. As we scroll down, we could determine if we'd like to notify members via email and device notifications of their invite. That's a great option. We want them to know that they have access to this file. So we can go ahead and select this and turn it on with the radio button. Lastly, we'll want to know what level of access this person should have to this file. There's only one option, so we'll go ahead and select Viewer. Next, we'll want to begin adding this user to another application that's connected into BetterCloud. This organization uses Slack internally to communicate with each other. So we can scroll down on the left-hand side and find Slack. For all instances of Slack above Basic, you have the ability to create Slack users. So go ahead and click Create User. We have multiple instances of Slack, So we'll pick our main Slack instance for the entire organization. Our username can get built based on the information Google knows. Our organization uses first name, followed by a dot, then last name. So again, we're picking the dynamic selector, expanding Google, and picking last name. And as you can see in the field now, it'll show up as first name dot last name. So we've dynamically built a username. We can also pass in the email just as we did with Dropbox. So now we're building information in Slack that is known to Google and passing that information along. Google also knows the title. So when setting a title, we can pull that information right from Google. We've already set first name and last name in our username field. So doing those steps is the same, using the dynamic selector, expanding Google, and selecting the field that's necessary. As we did with Dropbox, we're going to add this user to a group because group management is a critical part of getting users into the channels they need in Slack. This can get users into public and private channels. So here, we're picking the action user that was created in step 9, then adding them to the sales group. Notice the type ahead, Slack is a full integration, which means that we can get access to metadata in Slack. Additionally, we use 2 actions-only integrations. One of them is LastPass as our password manager. We're going to go ahead and create the user in LastPass, and all LastPass needs is an email address. We can go ahead and expand Google User here and pass LastPass the email address for the user. Because the user gains access to certain passwords via groups, we'll include the user's email here, then name the group. Now notice we don't get a type ahead here. This is because LastPass is an actions-only integration, and we don't ingest that metadata. So you'll need to know the names of your LastPass groups. When it comes to integrations, the last step that we're going to take is adding this user to Jira. If the sales team is using Jira, we'll need to go ahead and grant this user access to that platform. Just as when using LastPass, we only need the email address, so we can pass that information along by selecting user email from Google. So all of this looks great. We've gone ahead and given this user access to a number of SaaS applications. So let's go ahead and send them that welcome email I mentioned earlier. By picking Google again, we'll type email into the search box and select Send Email to User. This will be the beginning of their welcome email. The To field will be populated with the user's email address. CC and BCC are not required, so in this instance, we won't fill them out. Our subject can be welcome or whatever you'd like it to be, and then the body of the email can include information that you can dynamically select. So you can build this email with information that are known to the integrations that you've set this user up with. Notice here in Google, all of the fields that you have the ability to pass along to the user, including their title, making sure their work phone is correct, making sure their employee ID is correct. Then you also have examples for Dropbox. So email, name, status, membership type. You can include information about Dropbox, Slack, as well as LastPass and Jira. Finally, we'd like to go ahead and send a direct message in Slack to our IT admin to let the IT admin know that onboarding for this user has been completed. We can expand Slack. Let's close email in the search box and go ahead and type direct for direct message. Here, we'll click Send Direct Message. We'll pick our main Slack integration, and the user will be Dana. Dana is our IT admin, and we can go ahead and select her dynamically. Now we can enter a Slack message to Dana, letting her know that the user has been onboarded. So we can pick the user's first name, enter a space, then enter the user's last name, which will dynamically pass the user's information to Dana, letting her know that, for example, Joe Smith has been added to the organization. This can come from a bot, and you can name the bot, in this instance, BetterBot. This looks like a great onboarding workflow, and we can save it so others can review it. Or you can go ahead and publish it if you're ready to set this into motion, which would automatically begin your onboarding process. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.